Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's video. I wanted to do a part 2 to the mask and energy and fuel and source supply in regards to the mask. So let's jump in. So when you meet the narcissist at first meet, you don't even know them yet. The first run-in with them, they are always looking and on the hunt. They're always on the prowl for a new source of supply. And when they get to talking to you, you may be going through something. They always say you may be at a low level in your vibration based on some things you're going through at that moment in time. For me, I was going through a death and a divorce, and a lot of other things were going on in my life. So it kind of had really put me down for a while emotionally. I was in recovery mode from that. And because of that low vibration, when I met the narcissist, we got to talking, and they catch key things that are very easy after a while when you've been on the hunt for decades. Things they may ask you, and you may respond in a way that ensures that you don't want to hurt people's feelings, or you may take blame for some things. This happened, but I had a lot to do with it too. So things like that. And that's why we always say don't give too much information, because it's not like you want to lie, but you don't have to be that vulnerable. And a lot of times we're too vulnerable with people, because we feel like we want to tell the truth. We want to be ourselves, our true authentic self. And the other scenario may be along the lines of people pleasing. Maybe that individual, that narcissist, on their first run-in with them, maybe needed help with something, or so you were willing to help them. Could be just putting groceries in their car, or helping them pick something heavy up while you walked by and they were struggling or something. Things like that show empathic. That's what it shows to them. We would think that would be normal for anybody, but these are things they can sniff out, so to speak. They're very good at this. They're very good at the hunt. They already are gathering who you are from first run-in. That's why they start to make pop-ups in your life later, in and around your orbit, because those are not unplanned. Those were not by accident. They were targeted. They were planned episodes that were just like when they say, when the narcissist can't get you hoovered because you got them blocked everywhere, they may do that chance encounter where they will find out where you frequent every week or something. It could be a restaurant you go to. It could be a place where if you have a pet, you may walk your dog, or you may go to the park every week, or something, and they know this, so they'll be waiting so they can do a face-to-face with you, tell you how much they changed or something, so they can try to hoover you back that way. And so that's how they are. When they meet somebody that's highly empathic and they know this, they figure this out, and they start to do a little research on you, then they will continually show up in and around your orbit, meaning in and around your life. They may make it seem like it's just by accident or happenstance, but it's really not. It's them targeting you and trying to get close to you so that they can get in with you, get in your circle. Once they get in your circle, of course, they start to isolate you from other people that are good in your life and have the means to give you good advice. Now, people that are against you, that are close to you, because, you're still an unawoke empath at this moment in time that we're speaking on. Now, those individuals, they may not isolate, but they may make friends with them, because they're going to be along the same lines. The opposite, they want you to fail, just like this other individual, this other maybe narcissist friend of yours or family member. It's also another way in, another doorway into your life through somebody that you already know and you're friends with, even though they're toxic, and maybe you haven't put boundaries on them, or decided to just get rid of them out of your life. Maybe they were an old childhood friend or something. So you feel like you've invested a long time with them and you're not going to just let them go. And when you wake up, you let them all go, regardless of whoever they are, family, friends, whatever. But at the time, you have some toxic people in your life, so they're going to befriend those toxic individuals so that they can get people to agree with them. They run in packs. So narcissists, if they work around other narcissists, if they meet others that are around you, when they meet you, they're going to team up. It's just natural for them to do that. It's like the flying monkeys a lot of times are either highly narcissists, or they're chronic toxic enablers. And sometimes they will also be getting something out of it. Maybe they get some sort of help or assistance from that narcissist. So it's kind of the same thing. The flying monkeys are just in the field of narcissism as well, or toxic enough to where they're might as well be. So what you'll find is anybody the narcissist is with is going to be highly narcissistic, or a narcissist as well, or toxic enabler. So everything about them is unhealthy. They hang out with people that are just like them, typically, because it makes them look normal. It makes them feel normal. It normalizes this personality disorder that they have. So a narcissist is going to hang out with other narcissists because they're going to be cheating, lying, and stealing, and they could be a gold digger. They're into monetary things and just things of this world. They're going to be into the good things of this life, the lusts of the world, nothing spiritual. So they're going to meet on several levels, and they're going to have certain kind of understandings. They know how things are because they think alike, and they will supply each other in time of need. That's where narcissists really will help each other, because there's going to be a time where they're going to need that as well. When they do things like run smear campaigns and all that, it's just other narcissists or highly toxic people that are making this smear campaign as well go abroad, meaning it's going to go through the family, through work, wherever you are, your friend relationships, through the whole bunch. But they make it more believable because it's not just the narcissist that's smearing you, but now you got 2 or 3 people, maybe 4 or 5 people smearing you that know you, but they don't really know what's going on. They know that the narcissist is toxic and they're backing them up. So these are things they do for each other. And there could be a narcissist that has more money than the rest, so they may pay for some things for them. They may take them out to a nice dinner once in a while just to kick it with them, but they'll take the bill, and they may give them their old laptop or something, your old MacBook when they get a new one. They may do things like that. This is how they keep toxic enablers in their orbit sometimes. And usually the toxic enabler, to some degree, can't even see through the mask because they really are seeing the mask for what it is. They're so gaslit because this is, also out and about. So some of them are going to believe the mask and they're going to look up to them. A pristine person with all this great character. So they're going to also be out there running smear campaigns because they honestly believe they have this great charisma and they're Mother Teresa when they're not. But again, they're seeing them out and about. They're not seeing them behind closed doors. And they're already living with a narcissist. So they're already gaslit by whoever they're enabling at home. So when they see this narcissist out and about, made friends with them, it's because they're on similar. A toxic enabler is going to be on a similar vibration to a narcissist because they're going to be beat down and riding at that same kind of location. And after a while, you become a lot like the narcissist. I mean, if you're enabling them and you're sleeping with them, living with them for a decade, you can't help but become similar to them and have given up all your boundaries to the narcissist you have at home, and you're not going to be able to see it so much. If you haven't woke up from that, you ain't waking up from meeting one out and about, because the one that you met out and about is going to look superb because they're wearing other empath fuel, especially if they have a good primary at home. So they're going to win over a toxic enabler easily. So you get people like that run these smear campaigns. But the deal is, they do get with a lot of narcissistic people and narcissists as sources of supply because they really get low-hanging fruit outside of you, outside of the primary source supply that's an empath. They typically get a lot of low-hanging fruit and people that have very little to no boundaries, because you can't be with a narcissist and have boundaries. It's just impossible. So people they get with are people that are similar to them. They're almost transactional. You see, they may not like it. If they're a narcissist, they don't like a whole lot of anything. Then there's just a power control situation, or they're just using each other. If they're using each other for sex and maybe time to spend or money, or maybe they have more reach than them and the other one looks better. That's where you'll see like 2 narcissists that will have agreed transactional things going on. And it may be unspoken. It'll just be understood maybe. That's how a lot of narcissists are, especially in a narcissistic family. A lot of things you just understand after a while because you know how they are. So you can predict. You didn't know they had cycles then, but the people in the family, but you could predict, exactly how they're thinking because they do run on these patterns and cycles. You hadn't broke it down yet that maybe your family members would run on cycles or something like that, but they run in a certain kind of way, right? You end up knowing their character after a while. So things are just understood, and that's how it goes for them. A lot of things with narcissists are don't ask, don't tell, because you know what the answer is going to be, and you don't want to hear the answer. So you're either going to gaslight yourself, or you're going to avoid it because it's just going to cause a huge rage argument, or it's going to cause a breakup. And if you're trauma bonded to them, you're not going to do something like that to cause a breakup. You're going to more accommodate and act as if it's not happening. So that's why I call it the don't ask, don't tell. Because it's like they could be cheating on a person, and maybe the person they're with that they're cheating on knows they're cheating on them, but they'll gaslight themselves. And they'll be like, well, until I get proof of it, then they're not cheating on me. I have no proof of it, right? So it's that give them the benefit of the doubt, except you're also not going to follow them, because that's not something a lot of empaths would do typically. You're not going to be concerned about that. It's something you would want to do because they're cheating on you, but you're not going to do that. You're not going to look into anything, and you're also not going to question anything. So it's happening right under your nose, and you're going to act like going to be in that fantasy, just like they want you. You're doing exactly what they want you. They've conditioned you at this point. What do they call it? Malleable. When they can bang you into position, or hammer you into what they want you to be in the fantasy. So that's what they do. They mold you if you allow them to. In the fantasy, they mold you to what they want you to accept and what they want you to do for them, how they want you to act. There's also things, like what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. And so all the abuse that happens behind closed doors, if you've been with a narcissist, that when you get out and about around other public people that know the both of you, you have to act as if nothing is wrong at all. That's why they could argue with you and all the way to the place that you're going, the outing. And as soon as they get out of the car, they're going to put that mask on and act as if everything is just wonderful. And you can't say anything. And then if you do say something, people wouldn't believe you. And this is all because you are fueling that mask, and you're fueling it so well. So when they're with another narcissist or highly narcissistic individual, if they're getting crappy fuel, cheat and lie and steal and fuel, where the other person's getting it from them, it's not going to change their vibration. Their mask is still going to be being able to see through. And that's what gets them to get low-level people. And also, they're not going to get people that have boundaries and that grew up in normal homes, because they are so out of the ordinary, causing drama. A lot of times, if you didn't grow up in these families, you're not going to be taking that mess, because people aren't going to do short cycles with somebody because they're flipping out all the time. And they're not going to lower their boundaries down because they are, feeling like they want the narcissist like that. They're not going to put up with it. And before they even get trauma bonded, they're going to be gone. So the narcissist gets, like I said, the empath that's unaware. And if that empath is not like that chosen type source chosen to break the curse, meaning they're not going to be the one that's really truly seeking truth like they should. And that's typically what they would get. An empath that may be able to generate that fuel, they may be a good individual. But when they meet the narcissist, they sacrifice themselves for the narcissist. And when they do that, they have to go into the fantasy and stay there. And so that's where they kind of sacrifice themselves, so to speak, because they're sacrificing all of their moral stance, all of their morals, the things that they believe in. They have to sacrifice them. They have to lay them down and agree to not look into anything, to just believe the narcissist, even though they're cheating and lying and stealing. Don't question them. And all of these things are wrong, and you got to back them up all the time, because you can't be in a relationship and not back them up, and then you're fueling them, whether it's been unbeknownst to you or not. Generally always is, because I don't believe God's going to allow you to wake up unless your heart is right to wake up. It's kind of like in the stance of salvation, if your heart's not fertile and if it's not prepped, if it hasn't gone through certain steps to where you're ready for true salvation, then it may be there, but you won't see it, or you won't receive it. I think a lot of people think they receive it from saying some prayer, but it doesn't really make any change with them. And that's because they really truly didn't get saved, because their heart wasn't ready for it, because they aren't doing enough to cultivate what they need. They need to know and believe certain things, and they need to be vulnerable to receive these things. Well, the same thing goes with narcissism. To wake up to narcissism, you have to be vulnerable enough to be a truth seeker and be willing to look into these matters. And if you just fold to it, then you won't wake up, because you'll just be feeding it and you'll be corrupting yourself at the same time. To be in it and the trauma of it is what gets you to get your heart right to a vulnerable state to where you will search these things out. It's a different kind of vulnerability, I guess, because you're not being vulnerable to anybody except the situation because of the way you feel. So you'll seek these things out, and God will allow you to find those answers. But he's not going to allow a toxic empath to. It just doesn't work that way. So you have a lot of empaths out there that are toxic empaths, but they may not have been before they met the narcissist so much. But see, their will wasn't ready. Their will wasn't there. And you never know what you're going to turn into your fruition. Only God knows that. He only knows your innate self. He only knows your fruition, because he knows the beginning from the end, but you don't. You will in the end, after all of this is said and done, yes, but it'll be complete then. That's where I get to where there is some sort of innateness to this. There's some people that just run to evil, and there's some people that run away from it. There's some people that wake up at some point in time, but it was always in them. They just had to go through certain obstacles, but they were always going to do that. They were always going to go down the path of waking up and seeking that truth, because in their innate self, they are truth seekers, and that's it. So that's kind of how it works. And then when they have that type virgin type fuel, or somebody who is really unaware of what they're doing, and they're really trying with the narcissist, and maybe they have folded with their boundaries, but then they dip down. And I think typically what you see the chosen curse breaker type is where they dip down, they give all their boundaries up, they go through a stage where they pour their heart out thinking love will fix it. And then when love doesn't fix it, and you get destroyed worse. Because the more you pour into a narcissist, the more you get defeated, the more you get destroyed, the more destruction it comes. So when that happens, the empath then, after through enough trauma, see, it may not happen with a borderline, because the borderline may not give you enough trauma. But that's why it may take 2 or 3 of these narcissists. And then when you get a heavy duty one that's like a sociopath, so they'll put you through that trauma. And when you keep pouring more love to them, it makes you get hurt worse, because you're pouring more out, you're losing more of your identity, and they hate you more. They sadistically treat you worse and malignantly destroy you. And when you go through that, then you start to seek that truth again, and you don't stop. And so that's when God awakens you and allows you to straighten this crooked path out, because now you're ready. But what's interesting is, I'm reading this book. It's called Nature versus Nurture, and this is a psychiatrist, and he is of the belief that these people, well, I haven't got but partly through the book so far. It's called Nature versus Nurture. One of the subscribers had talked about it. They believed that it was just something that they decide after birth, so to speak, and the whole narrative of that trauma caused it, or that the golden child situation caused it, is not true at all. And he goes into detail. I don't even think I'm a third of the way through the book yet, but it's very interesting, because I'm getting into the meat of it now. So I'll update you. But he talks as if nothing was circumstantial that caused you to become a narcissist. These are just like either choices that you made or something that you did since birth because you were just wayward. And he also grew up in a family of narcissists, so he watched it firsthand as well. But you can't talk like that, he suggested, because you do get blackballed, and everybody in the field of study goes against you. But he said that it's all a lie. That a narcissist is not from the way they are nurtured. You're born with your own innate self, meaning you know what's right, you know what's wrong. You don't need to be taught how to love, y'all. I don't care what people say. Nobody teaches you how to love. It's something that you are given. It's a gift that you're given at birth. We all are born with the ability to love from birth. There's nobody that needs to teach you that. That's ridiculous. And if that is the case, if you don't see love in your family, you're going to see it out and about. And you should never want to get hurt and decide you want to be just like the abuser. That none of that, any of that makes sense. But you're living in a world and you're living in a time, just like it says in the word. There'll be a time coming during the last days that evil will be called good and good will be called evil. Well, what I learned from reading the word when I got saved is God is also perfect common sense and the enemy is perfect senselessness. So not to replace it, but it's very synonymous with there'll be a time coming where perfect common sense will be called evil and perfect senselessness will be called good. And that's kind of my interpretation to some degree of what that scripture is saying. And that is what you see today. You see a lot of craziness. They claim to be proven fact, and it's not. But it's still out there as quoted as either proven fact, and we all know that it's not. It's driven by certain sectors of society, and it's wrong. But a lot of times we will believe it because it comes out of a bunch of books, or you got a people quoting these things online that they got hurt so bad. And that the funny thing is this: I don't think they went through near the trauma that the empath has dealt with. In fact, I don't know if some have been traumatized, but it has nothing to do with what they chose to become. When you start to blame and look for excuses on things, there's nothing weaker than that. You have people that come out of the worst slums and become very, very successful. They have all of their morals and all of their boundaries up. When you start to, this is the deal, when they talk about in narcissism, when you don't love yourself is when you're sacrificing your boundaries for somebody. And that's what the narcissist does. The first thing the narcissist does when they come in is they check your boundaries and they get you to lay them all down. And if you love yourself, you won't lay them down. You'll firm them up and you'll ditch the narcissist. And that's what will happen now as you have been going through some healing phases in your life as you woke up. Because you know that without truth, without justice, without love, you will have no peace. You will have no joy and you will have no happiness. You will have no future. Your future will always be on the sand and it will never be built on the rock. When you have to be codependent to somebody, you will never find your true inner independence. And so these are toxic links and toxic chains that keep you bound to the narcissist. Is when you lay all your boundaries down, that's a toxic link and chain. You talk about these cords that keep you bound to the narcissist. One of them is when you don't hold your boundaries up for what you believe in. Two is when you will be codependent when you know that's not right, that you need to go through, whatever dark nights you have to get your own independence and live by your own standard and back yourself up. You don't have to second guess yourself. You just learn from your mistakes and have some guts. You don't people please. Things can be a matter of fact. You're going to hurt people's feelings from time to time. And a lot of times when you think you're hurting someone's feelings, you're really not. You're allowing them to persuade you to do what they want. And you do have an opinion in this world. And if you don't use it, somebody else will. And you'll lose it. So this is where the empath needs to toughen up, get tougher skin. And you don't want to give out too much information to people you don't know. Be vulnerable to people that you don't really know and haven't vetted. You don't want to hang out with anybody toxic or have them in your life, because when you're around, whoever you're around is who forms opinions and thoughts in your mind, and bad habits or good habits. They either sharpen your sword or they dull it. So when you surround yourself around some toxic people and some good people, that's not good. These are things that keep you chained to the narcissist, keep you connected to the narcissist. When you people please, when you enable, when you don't have boundaries that you keep firm, and when you're codependent. So if you can give me a like, subscription, and thumbs up, love you all. Till next time, peace, we out.